Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Perfect Blend podcast. This is something special, a special package of the Perfect Blend podcast called the Pride series. Super, super excited. So, the Pride series is basically a portion of my podcast, which I've dedicated to chatting with fellow people in community who I know, chopping it up about various topics. So far, I've dropped 2 episodes so far. The first one was with my dear friend Miss Carla Ibarra, called Trans Girl Talk. Go check that one out if you haven't. Make sure to comment, like, and share that video. The second one is with Miss Erica Kane, a Black trans female content creator who's based in DC. It's called Black Trans Girl Talk. Go check that one out. I dropped that like 2 days ago. And now we are here with another individual in community, Miss Villanueva. Did I say that correct? I'm a mess.
Yes,
Brenda V. Yes, and we have Brenda here today, and I just want to read a quick bio for Brenda. Brenda's pronouns are she, hers. Brenda is a policy advocate and has 9 years in public health policy advocacy. She currently works at the Los Angeles LGBT Center, focusing on health equity, LGBTQ women's health, immigration reform, and racial justice policy. Brenda also leads a weekly virtual queer Bible study group. So welcome, Brenda.
nice to be here. I'm
Yeah,
excited to
yeah.
chop it up with you.
No, I'm super excited. And first of all, thank you for being so interested in coming on to the podcast and like really being patient with me because I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off. So yes, and how I met Brenda is that I actually used to work with Brenda doing policy advocacy with the LA LGBT Center as well. So that's how we met in my former role with the National LGBTQ Institute on Intimate Partner Violence. So nice to meet you, friend.
Hey.
And thank you for being here. Once again, I cannot thank you enough. So tell us about yourself, Brenda. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, your upbringing, your zodiac sign, and so forth.
All right, for sure. So I am born and raised in Los Angeles. I'm an 80s baby. 86 is a very, very good year. May I
Mhm.
say so myself. But my parents immigrated here from El Salvador, actually.
Okay.
They fled the Civil War that
Oh,
was up there, and that could be a whole other subject for another time.
okay.
But
I'm gonna have to bring you back to talk about how they fled the city.
right.
Right.
But my dad got here first, and then my mom, came a year later. That reunion was very fruitful, so here I am. Um, I was born in Los Angeles.
Like somebody got pregnant.
Right. So my first language is actually Spanish. I
Hmm.
didn't know English until school. But so, been growing up as a brown queer woman, and I actually did early on kind of figured that I was queer. Obviously as a kid you don't really understand things, but I was like, I'm a little different.
You felt that you were different.
I really knew it, and I actually come from a very conservative, like evangelical background. I
Oh.
Christian,
Hmm.
uh, still Christian nonetheless, in spite of like this, I guess you could say, identity dilemma that I did have for quite some time.
Mm.
It recently came out, in my early 30s.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of like, and it wasn't like I had like a big, coming out moment or anything like that. I just
Right.
kind of started being myself, and
Uh-huh.
my hair, and I think I just started living my own fluidity a little bit more. So,
Mhm.
and then little by little, people were like, is she? Is she? And then I just kind of, dropped hints here and there. Never really had like a full on conversation, except with like, people I felt safe with, which is, I think, very important.
Right.
Um, you know, Especially with the times that we're in right now. To be honest, I'm kind of like a little fearful just because, like, I'm not very feminine. So
Mm.
with all the hate,
And the hate crimes and
on,
so forth.
especially because I am a little more mass presenting, sometimes I do feel like I,
Like you're a
look over my shoulder
target.
a little more.
Like you're more of a target.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, dang, a girl can catch a break. Like I'm recently out, like let a girl live, you know.
Mhm. When
But
did you come out? You said it
like,
was recent, but was this like last year when?
no, I want to say like about 3, 4 years ago is when I
Oh,
kind of,
okay. Oh, so you've been
even
out
before
for
I
a
chopped
while.
off my hair, even before, like, I just And it was through advocacy work that I felt safe. I
Do come
joined
out.
the LGBTQ caucus within um, substance use prevention advocacy.
Mhm.
And being in that space allowed me to start being more myself and confide in folks. And I just started like, being um, more open. And it's funny because I was advocating for LGBTQ rights even before I was out. And I think it was kind of me setting the ground for
Mhm.
myself, ahead
Mhm.
of time. But yeah. And then, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get deeper into the
We're
conversation.
gonna get deeper, yes.
Folks
So
know my zodiac sign. I'm not
yeah,
a
so let us know your zodiac sign before we move
Scorpio, but I'm a
on.
Libra.
Oh,
Apparently, people always say give it off. Um,
uh-huh.
so most people think I am. I don't know if it's the rising or the moon. Forgive me, but whatever people think you are,
The rising.
it's
Hmm.
okay. So Scorpio. You
Mm.
really guess that, and that's
I think when we first met, I think I told you that, right? Then I thought I forgot I told you. I thought you were like a
yeah. I
Scorpio
every time people
Capricorn.
ask me the three things, I go to Snapchat because it tells me.
Now
Um,
Snapchat has our birth charts now or whatever.
yeah.
So cute.
Apparently,
Yes, I'm an Aquarius, so you're a part of the air family with us here.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I guess I'm
One of the few Libras I actually like, because sometimes Libras, they be, I don't know, like Libras, they be hit or miss. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
oh,
Like,
we bring the
Libras are cool. They're
balance,
not bad people,
certainly.
but they're just, I feel like Libras are like hard to catch, if that
Mm,
makes sense. Like
we're
they're
known
hard.
as indecisive. I say we're balanced.
Well, y'all are hard to understand sometimes. I don't know why. Or certain Libras that I've met. It's,
Cryptic is what I hear.
so what?
I said cryptic is what I hear.
Yeah, like they just, I don't know. It's like maybe it's the air in them. I don't know. It's just it's hard to like ground them and catch them sometimes. Okay, perfect. So you mentioned earlier that you grew up in a very from you came from a very is it the word evangelical background?
Mhm.
So with that being said, the topic of tonight's episode is being like queer identity and religion and faith, right? And that's something that I never really have like discussed on my podcast, and it's something that I've always shied away from because religion is like super 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 touchy for a lot of people. Like people get so riled up whenever
Mhm.
the religion conversation comes up because it's something that's intimate, it's something that's personal, it's something that's touchy, it's something that triggers people sometimes. So our next question here, you mentioned that you are a queer woman. What are your thoughts on being Christian and a part of the LGBTQ community, and how has that journey been for you?
Ooh. You know, I haven't known, I guess, any other religion, if you will, or other faith aside from Christianity. Because my mom got baptized before, I think even I think she was pregnant with my older brother when she got baptized.
Oh, okay.
And even though my dad's been like, I call it, he's not like a practicing Christian per se.
Hmm.
It's like the faith he identifies with. So we grew up very conservative.
Mm.
But
When we say conservative, you mean like going to Bible study every Wednesday, going to church every Sunday,
yeah, but also having like conservative
values?
values and
Hmm.
stuff. So I think even when I was younger, and I was kind of like already experiencing emotions and feelings and starting to feel, different, I got scared because, you grow up hearing like that's a sin, it is horrible, like God looks down on you. Um,
Mm.
and so obviously I hit that, and for a long time I prayed it away. Like I prayed like, I couldn't understand, like, I grew up Christian, and there's a lot of verses that talk about like God knowing you before you were even in the womb,
Yeah,
right?
before you knew yourself.
Before you knew yourself. And
Hmm.
so like I think that was the biggest struggle for me. Was like, all right, if you already knew who I was going to be, like it was hard for me to understand that God hated me or that he would not love me
Hmm.
as I'm like here practicing faith, but also dealing, with this what I thought back then was an identity issue. Um,
Mm.
so I think for me, for a long time, I suppressed it, or like there was a couple years that, I think I was like sad, like after high school, because actually, let me backtrack a little. In From middle school, where I think I was really like more aware of what I was feeling. I started really kind of like pursuing guys, and so in high school, I had kind of had like a very promiscuous phase because I was kind of trying to hope that somebody would kind of like bang it away, if you will.
Right. Right.
And obviously that was not working. I also ended up meeting my first girlfriend around that time.
Oh, in high school, around the phase of like trying to, I don't want to say get the gay away. That's terrible to say that. But the
Yeah,
phase of trying to be straight, I guess,
yeah.
so trying to practice this heterosexuality situation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so in the process, was like a close friend, but nonetheless, an intimate relationship formed, and we're
Mhm.
both closeted, so we kind of had this like, we'll date guys, but we can't date other like women type of thing. We were young. I mean, I was like 14 or something, didn't know what we were doing, but what I did notice is the intimacy with her was way different, and in that I think it really solidified like,
So you said but you did know a girl at the time, but both of you were closeted, but you noticed how the intimacy was a lot stronger for you
mm-hmm.
and the other girl at the time.
Yeah, and so I mean, we both had a very like that bond lasted like maybe 3 years. I mean, it started
Oh.
freshman year and ended all the way. I think it carried all the way into my senior year,
Hmm.
and then like stuff started happening and whatever. But like basically, after high school, there was just too much that I had been through, emotionally, physically. There was things that came up that happened to me that I was kind of like, you know what, I need to pull away. So I decided to be celibate. And during that period, I suppressed a lot, which was very easy for me not to sleep with men because that wasn't really my temptation per se.
Right.
Uh, but I wasn't out, so I wasn't actively going to meet other women or anything like that. Like I was just
Mm.
gonna keep to myself. And in
Right.
that process of a mess of like emotions that I was going through is really when I think I started taking church seriously. I
Mm.
think you kind of like, my background, I grew up very religious, but as I got older, I realized like, okay, this is just a routine to me. And I
Mm.
it's until after high school that I was able to shut a lot of different factors, and I did an honest prayer, and I was like, God, if you're real, you need to show up. Like
Hmm.
this up
Oh,
to
I've
this
had those
point,
prayers several times.
yeah.
Like, I
Up
need
to
you
that
right now.
point, it was
Yeah.
very like, I go to church Sundays, it's what I do, it's what I know, but I didn't really feel like I had like an intimate relationship with God Himself. And so
Hmm.
after high school and going through all these different things, I did attend a camp. And, I did really kind of feel, leading up to it, like I was praying about it. And church ended up becoming like a second home because in the middle of like the mess and like the crazy stuff that I was doing, and not so much like the sexual stuff, but I was like, close to doing drugs. And I was
Hmm.
just looking a fool, really. Like I was rebelling. And I
You were
think it was a
figuring
way,
out life. You were living life,
yeah,
rebel, trying
it
to
was
figure
a way
stuff
of
out.
trying to like find my place, but also like there was that intimate struggle of like, okay, you already think I'm not right living, so why do everything else type of thing?
Right.
So
So
with
you
that
were like,
being
let me
said,
just go ahead and just mess everything up for myself because you already, yeah.
yeah, so in a way I'm grateful because during that period, church ended up being like a safe haven for me in
Mm.
the sense that everything I know about leadership, everything I know about how to serve people, how to love people, I learned in church. You know, um,
Hmm.
I think in the midst of all that, like I started to learn to play guitar. Uh,
Hmm.
and actually, one of my close friends, who actually passed away 2 years ago due to fentanyl overdose, which
I'm
is why I
sorry.
do the advocacy that I do. He was the
Hmm.
one who taught me guitar and bass, and I kind of really liked it. And then being able to be a part of the worship team helped me hone those skills. And so now I have
Mm.
a different appreciation for music, and I really felt like I connected to God through worship. So in that process, I started like helping with the youth, and then I started
Hmm.
doing mission trips, and
Hmm.
all that really kind of fortified my leadership. But I feel like I never really was addressing some of the more internal
Like the
struggle
deeper stuff.
because
So,
I was so busy, just serving, and it was
mhm,
kind of like push that to the side.
kind of forgot yourself a little bit.
Yeah, like I wasn't really having relationships, like I
Mhm.
wasn't, seeking intimacy with anyone, so it was easy to avoid all that. But then, as I started getting older, and then the cons like, talk about marriage and all that started
And
coming up,
settling down in life
I
and
just really couldn't picture myself with a man. And then
mm,
in later years, I got in a relationship with another woman, and just really kind of like, yeah, this I'm queer, and
this is
I
who you are, right?
and
Awesome.
so I think I started praying it more away, and then I got
Mhm.
depressed, and then it came to the point where I really kind of was like, you know what? If this is how it's gonna go, like I don't see my life outside of God, but I also I've been praying this away for 20 years, and it's not going away, or more close to 30 years. It's not going away. So
Right.
I kind of like let it go.
Mm,
And, at that point I was like, let me just end it.
right.
But God met me in that moment, and that kind of redefined how I saw faith and queerness. It's
Mm,
kind of like, I'm not my joy and my happiness and my peace can't come from neither a man or a woman. Like, let me
right.
find my fulfillment in God first, and then God knows the desires of my heart, and He's gonna provide that when the time comes. But I think
Right.
being like I didn't feel I needed to separate myself from my queerness to get close to Him, and I think that actually expanded and got me more into my faith because I got to see God in a different way, and I got an
Right.
understanding of His Word in a different way.
So
Um,
really quickly, we're running short on time already. So are you okay with doing a part two of this tonight? Because we still have other questions, if that's fine.
Absolutely.
I can't believe we're already running out of time. I just started the Zoom. I'm like, how are we already running out of time? But right. So you mentioned how you really had a really difficult time for about
Mhm.
20 years or so with self-acceptance of who you are and faith and so forth and relationships and going celibate and then taking breaks. And it seems like you had just like you were living life and trying to sort out and figure out your connection to God. So now with our next question, how do you maintain such a strong faith in God? Right? Because for me in particular, when I grew up, I grew up Christian as well, but my family, they were like the Christians that were like only Christian if they like needed something or like, does it make sense? Like they were only Christian by a basic expectation of being Christian because that's all they knew. But I don't even know if they really wanted to truly be Christian. I think it was just something that was passed down to them and so forth. And we all just kind of followed that way of life, right?
Mhm.
So growing up, of course, going to church and stuff, we didn't have like a church or a type of Christianity that we stuck with, like Kojic or evangelical or Pentecostal or Baptist. We just kind of like bounced around to all different churches. Um, but for me, I did hear the whole "you're a sinner" thing. I did hear that growing up. But for some reason, I don't know. I feel like in my heart, I just always knew that that wasn't true to me. I don't know why. Like I felt like it was like other people and like other humans who were probably scarred from religion. And they're kind of just chasing this perfect life and trying to like judge others and things like that. So that's why they spew that stuff out. But for some reason, like all my life, even as a kid, like despite my struggles, of being, a queer youth, trans youth, or whatever, I never felt like I was a sinner per se, if that makes sense. Like I felt like I always knew that I still had a relationship with God and that I was always highly protected. And I noticed that when people hear people like us, such as you being a queer woman, me being a queer woman as well, a trans woman, saying this, some people get really triggered by us just even, by virtue of us even having this conversation. So before this closes out in about 6 minutes or so, how do you maintain such a strong faith in God?
I think it's because I just know Him intimately, and it may sound cheesy or corny, but like I've really been able to see God in my darkest moments, from
Mm,
lost my nephew to my
mhm,
suicidal bit. I think growing up in church, you get taught that God is like in the middle of worship service, or,
mhm.
the conventions and just church, but really His Holy Spirit was sent to us to have that relationship wherever we go, you know?
Right.
I think what brought me peace was just kind of like going back and rereading Jesus' ministry and seeing who He associated with. and
Mhm.
how to live this life. And so to me, it's like, to be honest, like I'm gonna be, real candid in that, sometimes I still wonder, like, am I sinning? Am I not? But like, if I'm being
Mhm.
honest, like, I don't really feel that way
Mhm.
because, I'm not really like lusting after women. I just know that that's what I always connected with. And also, like, I've been very emotionally and physically scarred by men, from when
Mhm.
I was a child to you know,
So
being
a
a
woman.
woman.
Yeah.
And even like in the way I present myself, it's much
Mhm.
easier for me to be a little more masculine because every time that I've been like, one, femininity is really, it's not that it's uncomfortable because I still like bask in it. I know I'm a woman, like, that's what I identify. Like, I'm sure of it, but it's hard for me to be super feminine because every time that I've been super objectified.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
without being like that, things have happened. So it's hard for me to connect with that part because I've always felt like guilty for things. Now I know after through therapy and stuff that I'm not, but like, I think what keeps my faith alive is that I'm able to like worship. Like, I've seen God still use me in
Mhm.
the state as I am.
Right.
And I think that people want to put God in a box. Like, God is going to use whoever he pleases, how
Right.
he pleases. And I think that's what gets me connected to him. I didn't ask for this, but I know him. And I'm glad that I do. You know,
Mm.
everything, the way that I carry out my life, the way I treat people, the way that I am really just comes out of my relationship with him. And like I always tell people, I no longer pray it away. I don't pray the gay away. I don't pray to find a partner in life, to be quite honest. I'm like, God, I just want to seek you. I want people, when they see me, when they meet me, I want them to be like, this woman loves God, this woman loves people. And I'm
Right.
like, at the end of the day, you know the desires of my heart, and then you will fulfill that. But I think the mistake that Christians make is that they want to, like, if you're queer or whatever, like, they want to point you to the opposite sex, and they want that to, like, well, it's because you haven't met the right man yet, or
Right.
you. And I'm like, honey, I've met like 45 of them, and each one, but
Right.
not me throwing my numbers out there, but
And by
so
the way, yeah, yeah, don't feel like you have to overshare anything that you don't want
yeah,
to share. Yeah.
yeah. But with that being said, I think that that's the mistake, and I think what helped me stay in my faith and on my track is like, I just want to know him.
Mm.
And being connected to him, there's a verse that says, like, seek God first,
Mm.
seek first the kingdom, and God will give you everything else, like,
Right.
seek him first, and he knows that he'll fulfill the desires of your heart. So I stick
Mhm.
to that. That's what I cling to. I'm not trying to be right on anything. I'm not trying to convince people one way or the other. Like,
Right.
my relationship with God is very personal, and that's what
Mm.
I walk towards, and that's what I'm gonna continue, like, on one side you'll have queer people saying, like, oh, well, how can you go to church to, like, people that deal with people that hate queer people and this and that, and then on
Mhm.
churches, like, well, how can you call yourself queer if you're a Christian? But it's like, I choose to
Mhm.
listen to none of y'all. I have my relationship with God, and I'll let him answer to, like, I answer to him, I answer to no one. And
Thank
that's
you
kind of
for
like what's helped me,
Thank you
stay.
so much for, yeah, thank you for sharing that piece of it. I'm gonna reflect on it in part two, if that's cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and exit out here really quickly. Brenda, where could they find you so we could record part two tonight if you have a little bit more time
I
to
do.
break the stuff down? Where could they find you on the socials to follow you?
Instagram is what I use the most, so I'll put that out there. So, at Branded by Fire is my personal account, but if you
Uh-huh.
want to see some of my photography stuff as well, I also have one at bfire86.
Perfect. Thank you. And y'all know where to find me, Kaleef, now on Twitter and Instagram. I finally got 100 Twitter followers, child. So go follow me there. I need more. I need like 10,000. Um, follow me there. And that's KALEEFNLW. We're going to do a part two and be right back. But if there's anything that we shared in this video that you want to comment on, drop below in the comments, let us know, engage, like, share. I know this is a great topic a heavy topic for a lot of people. And I really appreciate Brenda opening up her life and sharing her journey with God and religion and her queer identity. So we will be back for part two. Brenda, I'm gonna send you another link, so stay tuned, okay?
For
Okay,
sure.
thank you.